Rescuing and preserving something from near destruction is a difficult task, and there are no guarantees it'll be successful. It takes determination, skill, and patience that may run into decades. These qualities are at work in our next story, at the Olinda Endangered Species Facility on the island of Maui. There, a handful of determined individuals are working to keep Hawaiian wildlife from slipping into extinction.
The hapu'u fern, or the ohia tree, or the olapa, is just as important as the apple tree and the pine tree. And what is most needed is for the children to know what is here and to know what its importance is, and to be able to go around and say, this is the only place in the world that this is found, and I'm proud of it, and I understand it, and I know what it's important for. For many species that will be coming here, it is thought to be the last resort. Captive propagation that we will be doing here is really the only time-saving element for birds that are currently not able to sustain themselves in the wild, or whose habitat in the wild at the moment is so degraded that they can't survive well there.
The Olinda Endangered Species Facility on the island of Maui is the state of Hawaii's official effort to put a halt to the tragic and rapid decline of our native birds. Relocated in November 1986 from Pohakuloa on the Big Island and furnished with a staff of 6, a former prison honor camp has become the new home for the Endangered Species Project, started 38 years ago. The goal of the Olinda facility is deceptively simple: to breed native Hawaiian birds for release back into the wild. But according to Dr. Fern Duval, making this happen is not so easy.
The Hawaiian crow is what we say in scientific terms, imminently endangered. And that means it's a bird for which, even if you're doing management, it may not work.
This room houses part of the Bishop Museum's vertebrate zoology collection. Our specimens of mammals and birds in this room are very old, most of them from Hawaii, and most collected around the turn of the century.
The Hawaiian archipelago is the most remote group of islands on Earth. Because of this isolation, the birds that settled here have become highly specialized, evolving separately from the rest of the world. In this climate-controlled room, not open to the public, are kept what could become the only physical records of Hawaiian wildlife.
We have here a collection of examples of almost all of the native Hawaiian land birds that were here at the time of Captain Cook's voyages in the late 1700s. This group over here are now all extinct. Most of them have been extinct officially and not been recorded since early in this century. Over on this side, we have those that are still with us. Most of them are endangered. These are officially endangered species. These over here are the only ones left in Hawaii now of the land birds that are not officially endangered. And these in the middle are not only endangered, but very, very close to extinction. In the case of the Kauai Akialoa, we have not had any observations of those for 20 years or so. In the case of the Molokai creeper, it is very, very unlikely that any of those are left today. In the case of this one, this is the Kauai O'o, or O'oa'a. There is still one of these birds here as recently as June of 1987, but we really do not expect him to hang on very much longer. And of course, this big fella, the crow, exists, and we don't know how many in the wild, very few, and just a few in the captive flock.
The Hawaiian crow, or alala, it's not completely known how it got here. In modern times, let's say, in historic times, the crow has only been known from the island of Hawaii. It's a very large bird, 22 inches long, and has a wingspan of about a yard. It's a quite heavy bird, a pound or a little more than a pound. The crow is better summarized as saying you're looking at a crow that thinks it's a parrot and that often feeds like a woodpecker. So what you're dealing with is a crow that doesn't act much like one given the chance to act like it should in the forest. It will hang upside down, it will feed on small fruits, it will fly to a flower and drink the nectar much like a hummingbird would, and it will climb up and down the trunks looking for food and hacking away at the wood much like a woodpecker. So what we have here is a crow that's come to an area that has closed forests, and it has developed into a crow that's not only capable but is dependent upon a very rich forest ecosystem to continue its survival.
We give them a well-balanced diet of meat, fruits, and vegetables. That's our first priority in the mornings when we start work.
If you ask Eddie Andrade what he did before he got his job with forestry and wildlife, he'll tell you he used to be a hunter and a poacher. He will also tell you that his 20 years of service have taught him that the effort to reintroduce birds into the wild is worth almost anything. Eddie was part of Hawaii's first captive propagation project, which bred and released nene geese into Haleakala Crater.
I experienced a project similar to this with the nene, and it was successful. And when you have a project and you have success in the project, it gives you great pride. Now this is a second chance for me to get into almost a similar program, but with a different species of birds. So it's a great challenge, and it's a great, to me, it's a great honor. I take all of the photos and all of the pictures that I have of the birds here and the crows and everything, and I show it to my children. And my children have been here on a few occasions where they can see the crows from a distance in the cages. And they're just amazed at, what they see, because, in Hawaii here, very few people even know that we have crows.
In captivity, we have 4 pair, 8 birds. Some of the birds have been in captivity a long time. They were taken when they were 5 or 6 weeks old and just out of the nest, and they were taken only if they looked like they were ill birds, meaning they had parasites or looked weak or acted weak. Those were taken into captivity. One 14 years ago, others 9 and 8 years ago, and then we had 3 birds produced in 1981 by work done at the Honolulu Zoo by Peter Luscombe. He hatched the eggs in an incubator and hand-raised them, and those are now 3 of our adult male birds. And the last bird to be brought in is also the last known bird from Hualalai. That's one female we have, and she was taken in 1983.
Fern Duval has been raising and observing crows since he was 5 years old. He has been working with these particular crows for almost 4 years. He uses two-way mirrors and video cameras to keep human contact to a minimum.
The thing that decimated the crows was probably 2 or 3 major things. One would be changes to the forest by logging it directly, or by having cattle in it, removing the needed food plants. And then you had the problem of introduced bird diseases affecting them. And there are pictures even from as late as the 1980s where birds had pox lesions. That's like smallpox in humans. And in 1980, for example, in May of 1980, we knew of 81% more alala than we knew of in May of 1985 from going in and doing surveys of them. After 1985, it's essentially become impossible to find them, and we think that there are less than 10 birds surviving in the wild and perhaps less than 5.
It's my contribution. I would say it's that, like the nene, again, when people see the nene, I tell them that I helped in that project, and I'm proud about, showing them the nene. I'm proud about showing them the Hawaiian crow. If I should be walking along with somebody sometime in the future, and I say, see, that's one of the birds that I helped reintroduce into the wild that people will be able to enjoy for the rest of their lives.